Andrew, could you explain in your professional experience what you feel the best way for collectors to get their stamps valued is?
We're contacted by literally hundreds of collectors through the year, hundreds. The first thing I think is to be aware of what you're selling, because some people will automatically think, I should send those stamps to auction. That's a big mistake in my opinion, because lots of collections actually, you pay the auction sells it for you, but who have they sold it to? They've actually sold it to a dealer. So all you've done is lost 35% by sending it to that auction, and all the auction's done is sold it to a dealer for you. Okay. Now they tell you that they've only charged you 12%, like 10% plus VAT or something, to the seller. But the truth of the matter is they're charging the seller 12%, they're charging the buyer another 20–25%. The spread is at least 33% usually, maybe 36%. So that's like basically saying, we buy a collection for £12,000. I'd say that the buyer gets £9,000. Sorry, seller. We pay £12,000, the seller gets £9,000. Now, if you handle that more intelligently, and I'm not saying that public auction's wrong, there are some things it's right for, but if you handle that more intelligently, you can get most of that extra money for yourself, rather than selling it through an auction. And if look at what you're selling basically. If you're selling mint British decimal postage stamps, look at the market. Speak to a few people. Most people don't speak to enough people. Speak to a few people, they're going to tell you straight away that the market for that material is totally and utterly saturated. Examine what comes through the post. Lots of your auction catalogues come through the post, might have stamps that you're trying to sell. Now if those are on those catalogues and you're trying to sell them, it's pretty obvious that the market's saturated. So if you send them to auction, you're sending them to the wrong place. All you should be doing is picking up the phone and saying, Andrew, I've got a collection of mint British stamps from 1971 through to 2013. The face value is £700. What percentage can you pay me? Okay, and we'll say, generally speaking, we pay about 60%. And you can phone someone else and say, would they, etc. Within no time at all, a little bit of comparison. Whereas it's amazing how many people send that type of auction, so that type of collection to auction. They're just throwing money away. Now, when you've got a more valuable collection, I think that, again, intelligent handling. First of all, if you're wired up, if you're internet connected, photos. Photos tell 1,000 words. Most people, or lots of people, send us lists. And lists, in my opinion, are the biggest switch off. So when a stamp dealer gets a list sent by a stamp collector, he doesn't know the quality. The stamp collector's saying, this is what it is, this is the identification, etc. If that seller is new to that potential buyer, there's no relationship, there's no forward knowledge or backward knowledge of what's happened. We've got clients who go back 30 years, so I can actually go to their account and they've been buying with us for 30 years, and I can actually say, oh yes, you bought that, and yes, oh you collect that, etc. We immediately, you know where you are. We know that that collector has something of value. But when collectors approach somebody who's new to them as a potential buyer, give them pictures if you can. Phone them up and give them a general view. Try and have some information like, what were your most expensive stamps that you bought? You'd be amazed, people phone us up and say, I've got this stamp collection for sale, Andrew. Yes, okay. Could you tell us a little bit about it? Yes. And what, etc. Well, I haven't got it here with me. No, it's somewhere else. But you're phoning us about your stamp collection. You actually want to sell it. You'd normally expect them to have it in front of them, but they haven't. You know, simple things, it's so basic. Pictures tell 1,000 words. Photocopies are good, okay? But basically, the thing to think about is, if you've got a collection and you've not spent much money on it, why would that collection today be worth a lot of money? And a lot of people get that wrong. Literally every week we have people phoning us up saying, I've got a collection, it's 18,000 stamps. 18,000 stamps of the world. All different. Okay, that's very impressive. And it catalogues, I had this one the other day, and it catalogues £10,000. So we've got 18,000 stamps and they catalogue £10,000. So the next question is, have you thought about that? Yes. How much money are you looking for? Well, I think it's worth thousands of pounds. Did you pay thousands of pounds for it? No. What is the average catalogue value of the stamp that's sitting in your hand, in your collection? It's 55p. Can you buy 55p stamps catalogue value in mixtures for a penny each? Yes. So you've got 18,000 stamps which you can buy for a penny each or tuppence each or whatever. I'm sure you've got some better ones. I'm sorry about, if I'm too negative. I'm sure you've got some better ones, but it cannot be worth thousands of pounds. You haven't paid £1,000 for it. And cheap stamps, here's another truism, cheap stamps do not go up in value. The world moves on, those stamps always stay cheap. They don't get better, people think they do, but they don't. 100-year-old stamps, penny reds, you can still buy a penny red for 5p. You can buy another penny red, plate 77, for £550,000. So basically, knowledge. Have some knowledge about what you're selling, think it through, don't just contact us, contact other people. If you handle it intelligently and you've got a valuable collection, you can forget about auction altogether, because we're all queuing up to buy nice collections. So you can simply say, here's the details, and we had a collection like that last week, and that was a collection that the gentleman was acting on behalf of someone. He handled it absolutely perfectly. He contacted us and said, here's a collection, in my opinion, there's this catalogue value in that country, and there's that catalogue value in that country, and it catalogues £35,000. And in my opinion, this is a really superior collection, etc, etc, etc. And some of the highlights are as follows. I didn't see any pictures, not a single picture, okay? What would you like to do? I said, right, well, what have you got arranged? He said, well, I've got one dealer come to see it. Perfect. He said, I'd like somebody else to come and see it. I said, okay, we'll come and see it, okay? So what happened then? We actually held an auction. One dealer was actually at the client's premises. He'd just looked at the stamps. He'd come up with his decision of what he was prepared to pay, okay? We'd been, somebody else had been, no, maybe it was the other chap came back, doesn't matter. Yes, there were 3 people. The first buyer basically said he'd pay £5,000 to £7,000. That was a complete waste of time. The second buyer came along and he started bidding, I think, around about £12,000. We'd viewed it a couple of days before, so he was actually at the premises, the client was there, it was totally above board, there was obviously no manipulation, nothing going on, and we bid 12,500, the other chap bid 13,000 or something like that. Anyway, we bid £15,000, we bought it. The other gentleman obviously was a little bit upset that he didn't win it, but he wasn't paying the top price. And then everybody was rather nice about it because they all sort of revealed their identity, because it's a question of confidence, not just for the seller but also for the buyer. But basically it worked. That owner that the gentleman was working for, that owner would not have got £15,000 if they'd put those stamps through a public auction. They would have put them through a public auction. The public auction would have got us dealers all bidding. We would have bid 15,000 or whatever, okay? The actual, including buyer's premium, remember, the actual owner would have got 11,000, 11,400, something like that. The difference is huge. So handle things intelligently, it makes a hell of a difference. And just take advice. We're not here just to make money from collectors all the time, we're here to provide a service. So we can't buy every single collection that's offered. We don't, but we buy most of them.